Imagine you're digging through boxes at a sketchy yard sale, and you stumble upon a tarnished brass lamp. You give it a quick wipe, a genie pops out, and offers you the classic, unnegotiable deal. One wish. You don't want to be unoriginal, but you also don't want to mess this up. Money? Hyperinflation might ruin it. Fame? Sounds completely exhausting. So you go for the ultimate power move. You look that genie dead in the eye and say, I want to live forever. Make me immortal. The genie smirks, snaps his fingers, and vanishes. You feel a rush. You did it. You beat the system. You're going to see the flying cars, the alien invasions, the eventual end of One Piece. You're invincible. But I'm here to tell you that the genie wasn't doing you a favor. He didn't grant you a blessing. He handed you a life sentence to the absolute worst torture imaginable. Let's talk about the first few hundred years. This is the honeymoon phase of immortality, and admittedly at first is pretty awesome. You finally have the time to learn the guitar, read all those books sitting on your nightstand, and take a nap without feeling that crushing sense of unproductivity. You watch your investments compound until you have Bezos-level money. You become a walking, breathing history book. You can casually drop into the conversations. Yeah, the 2020s were wild, but you really should have seen the 201400s. But eventually the novelty wears off. You start to realize that the human brain wasn't built to be a limitless hard drive. Think about how often you forget where you put your car keys right now. Now imagine trying to remember your favorite childhood memory, but your childhood was actually 8,000 years ago. You'd slowly start forgetting the faces of your first family, your original friends, the exact taste of your favorite meal. Your past would become a blur, like a movie you watched a long time ago, but can't quite recall the plot of. You wouldn't just be accumulating memories. You'd be constantly overwriting them. Then there's the daily grind. We complain constantly about the mundane things in life. Paying taxes, renewing our driver's license, going to the dentist, sitting in traffic. Now take all of that and stretch it out into infinity. Imagine paying taxes for 1,000,000 years. Imagine the sheer volume of paperwork you'd accumulate. You think the line at the DMV is bad today? Imagine waiting in line when the literal concept of time has lost all meaning to you. The clerk says, take a number. And you look down at your ticket and it's a barcode that stretches across the entire waiting room. And the boredom, oh, the boredom. How many times can you watch the rise and fall of civilizations before it just feels like bad TV reruns? Oh, look, another empire is collapsing because of terrible economic policies and a corrupt ruling class. Saw this one in Rome, saw it in America, seeing it right now on Mars. Yawn. You'd eventually run out of entirely new things to experience. Every new hit song would just sound like a remix of something you heard in the 25th century. Every joke would be a repost. You would become the most jaded person in the universe, impossible to impress and impossible to entertain. Let's look at the biological awkwardness of your situation. Evolution doesn't stop just because you did. In 100,000 years, humanity is going to look, act, and sound completely different. They might communicate through neural links, adapt to entirely different atmospheres, or merge with machines. You, however, are permanently stuck with your vintage 21st century software and hardware. You'll be a walking antique, effectively a Neanderthal trying to fit in at a futuristic cyber cocktail party. You won't be able to seamlessly communicate with them. Your immune system might be considered a biohazard, and you'll probably find yourself complaining to cyborgs about how, back in my day, we had to use our actual vocal cords to order a pizza. You wouldn't just be out of touch, you would literally be a different species from everyone else on the planet. There's also a massive logistical oversight people make when they wish for immortality. Immortal does not mean immune to getting trapped. Imagine you're taking a scenic hike and a freak earthquake hits. You fall into a deep ravine and a massive boulder pins your legs. A normal person would eventually pass away and find peace. You? You're stuck under a rock for 3,000 years. Or worse, what if you make some incredibly powerful enemies? What if a shadowy government discovers your little secret and decides you're the absolute perfect subject for infinite survivable medical testing? Or maybe the mafia just puts you in cement shoes and tosses you into the Mariana Trench. You wouldn't drown, but you would spend the next few geological eras hanging out with anglerfish in pitch black freezing water, just waiting for the tectonic plates to shift enough to set you free. Your life would be governed by a constant paralyzing paranoia of getting stuck somewhere forever. But let's get a little deeper and a little more personal. The absolute hardest part of being immortal wouldn't be the boredom, the taxes, or even getting stuck at the bottom of the ocean. It would be the goodbyes. Humans are fundamentally wired for connection. We build our entire lives around our parents, our partners, our kids, our friends. If you never age, you become a permanent fixture in a relentlessly temporary world. You would have to watch everyone you ever loved grow old, get sick, and pass away. Over and over and over again. You'd fall in love, build a beautiful life, and then, in the blink of an immortal eye, you'd be standing in front of another gravestone. After a few dozen cycles of this heartbreak, would you even want to make friends anymore? Would you even risk falling in love, knowing the exact painful way it ends every single time? Eventually, to protect your own sanity, you would stop caring. You would isolate yourself. You would become completely detached, wandering through the centuries as a ghost who just happens to have a pulse. The world would be moving at lightning speed around you, and you'd be standing perfectly still, entirely alone in a crowded room. And eventually, the world itself is going to leave you behind. And let's fast forward a bit. Say 5 billion years. The sun is running out of hydrogen. It expands into a red giant, violently swallowing the Mercury, Venus, and our lovely little Earth. Now remember the rules. You are immortal. You cannot die. But the Earth is gone. So what exactly happens to you? You're now floating in the infinite silent vacuum of space. Forever. There is no Wi-Fi. There are no snacks. There is no gravity. There's no ground to stand on. It is just you and your thoughts, drifting through the dark, freezing void for trillions of years, long after the very last stars in the universe have burned out and everything has gone cold. That is what the word forever actually means. It's not an endless summer vacation. It's an eternity of absolute nothingness. So maybe the next time you daydream about finding that magic lamp at a yard sale, you might want to rethink your wish. Maybe ask for a really good sandwich or the ability to always plug in a USB drive correctly on the first try. Because the brutal, beautiful truth is that the very thing that makes life valuable is the fact that it ends. Our time is strictly limited, which is exactly why it matters how we spend it, who we choose to spend it with, and why we care so much in the first place. Immortality wouldn't make you a god. It would completely rob you of your humanity. The ticking clock of our mortality isn't the enemy. It's the only thing giving the story any meaning.